trying, though.
Yeah, there's a number of folks out there trying, and as you point out, it was kind of a week of retreads, right? We had Hillary Clinton out today, and last week we had President Obama, speaking at the University of Chicago. I talked to Democrats, recently who were like, "Just go away, dude! Like, your time is over. You're not going to lead us anywhere new. You can help with redistricting reform or some of the systemic things that might help Democrats electorally, but don't be out there kind of front and center taking, any limelight away from people who are competing to be the next generation of leaders."
And frankly, the thing that he made the most news for was his decision to take $400,000 in speaking fees, which enraged people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And then you've got a round of stories about Elizabeth Warren saying she was, quote, troubled by President Obama's decision to take a large speaking fee from a banking institution. She said she was troubled by someone, Barack Obama, who is beloved by Democrats. He has a 93% approval rating with Democrats, and yet one of its future leaders has no trouble out there bashing him. She went even further this weekend in an interview with The Guardian. She said that his economic policies left a lot of people, quote, kicked in the teeth. She's not talking about a Republican there. She's talking about a president of her own party. And that gets back to my original point, is that these Democrats are spending a lot of time going after each other and not a lot of time moving forward against the Republicans.
So that brings me to what might be your favorite hobby horse, which is Elizabeth Warren. And for our listeners out there who've not listened to Colin Reed, who's a top Republican strategist here in Washington, a guy who's worked for Mitt Romney, for Chris Christie, and runs a super PAC here in town that is sole purpose is to seek out and destroy Democratic candidates to make it easier for Republicans to win. You have spent a lot of time as a Massachusetts boy yourself, also former staffer of Scott Brown, the Massachusetts senator. That's all to give you kind of I'm presenting why Elizabeth Warren is one of your favorite topics, because hometown Democrat, somebody with national profile, and somebody who it's your job to kind of keep tabs on. You had another column in the Boston Herald. Elizabeth Warren stumbles out of the 2020 gate. And I hate to open up the 2020 box. I'm still kind of exhausted from 2016. I do. These aren't crocodile tears. These are real tears, Colin. Real tears of we are 554 days till the midterms and only 102 days into President Trump's world. But let's talk about 2020, because if we're going to talk Dems, we have to talk about what the hell are they going to do? How could she possibly stumble out of a gate for an election that is 4 years away?
So a good rule of thumb is when a politician releases a book, it's because they want to run for higher office.
What?
I know.
Hold on. I thought it was because they had thoughts and feelings to express.
I might have made some news.
Oh, my goodness. You mean it's usually thinly written policy papers that they bind together in between hardcovers to talk about their message, Colin?
And it gives them the vessel to soft launch their presidential campaign.
Okay.
Secretary Clinton, she did it in 2014 with her book,
which was called
Hard Choices. And at that point, she went on a round of television interviews. And one of the first interviews out of the gate, she was asked about the state of her and her husband's finances, and she called them dead broke. That was her quote.
I thought, it's got to be hard living in Chappaqua, New York, being dead broke. I mean, you have all these rich neighbors, and you can't afford the latest Versace bag.
It was not a good answer for someone worth millions of dollars, and it was something that she couldn't. It was an answer that had no good cleanup, and she spent days answering for it. But because she didn't have the apparatus of a presidential campaign around her that she would later, the problem exacerbated itself. And it helped plant that seed, or in her case, further the narrative that she was out of touch with the American people after 25 years in national politics. She made it worse when she said she hadn't driven a car in 2 decades.
Right.
And I can go on and on.
So that's Hillary Clinton.
Right.
She's yesterday's news.
Correct.
And today's news.
Although she's on the news today. So, and they have no other leaders, so who knows? But, Hillary Clinton running for president again would be great for America Rising's business, since we have all the research on her. But that's a different topic for a different day. Fast forward to Senator Warren, 2017. We see that she's releasing a book. We view it the same way.
Called what?
Her book was called "This Fight Is Our Fight."
Okay. So I'm inspired by that title.
And so we circled that date in our calendars many months ago, and we viewed it as a soft launch of her presidential campaign for a couple of reasons. Number one, Senator Warren is not particularly fond of doing press interviews. But when you do a book tour,
she usually would run away from my cameras.
Right,
that's generally how it went.
Right, and that's not just limited to you, Chris.
I thought
it's not just you. She doesn't like.
It's not unusual that people run away from me. So I was like, maybe it's me. But good to know I'm not alone there.
You're not alone.
She does not love the press. She loves to say what she wants to say. She does not love getting questions that are challenging or hostile.
She prefers settings that are very comfortable, whether it's an MSNBC set or a Senate hearing or a Senate floor.
So where she's a little more in control.
Unchallenged, correct. Yeah. So we knew there'd be any sort of book tour involves a lot of media interviews, and we wanted to make sure that if we had a quote-unquote dead broke moment, we took full advantage. So when the book tour started, we started turning up our efforts towards Senator Warren. I might add both in that she's running for re-election to the Senate in Massachusetts in 2018, as well as for president in 2020, and we viewed that as an opportunity. Lo and behold, one of the first interviews out of the gates, she somehow, inexplicably, fumbles the obvious question, which is, are you running for president in 2020?